Hello, my name is Aurika Savickaite. I'm a co-founder of HelmetBasedVentilation.com. And today we have a guest from Italy, Marco Finotti, from Intersurgical. So they are producing helmets for many, many years. And the first helmet that was tried on a patient was in 2001. And I'm very happy to see that we got the FDA EUA approval to use these helmets in the US hospitals. So Marco, welcome to our interview. And
thank you for your call today, Aurika.
I want to hear the story, how it all began, and how the helmet started in Italy, and then your company is one of the manufacturers in the helmets, and also a little bit about the COVID, how you were handling that pandemic and the production of all the helmets. I know it was really tough. So, Marco, please tell us the story of the helmet.
Okay, my pleasure to be with you today. Yes, the company StarMed developed the first helmet for CPAP and non-invasive ventilation for hospital use in the early 2000s. It was 2001. CPAP was already very popular in Italy, made with standard twin port CPAP mask, or even with anesthesia mask. Very discomfortable for the patient, very difficult to maintain a seal. And also the CPAP level was not optimal due to the small volume of the interface. So many Italian key opinion leaders and physicians were looking to solutions to improve the CPAP quality for their patient in the ICU. For example, it was already very popular in Italy, the use of elastic reservoir bags. Mm-hmm. I don't know if this was ever common in the US. And this was just for increasing the volume of the CPAP circuit. Mm-hmm. Moreover, these big bags were elastic, so as soon as the patient was inspirating, those reservoirs were helping to supply extra flow and reducing the swings of CPAP. But there was also problems with some sort of CO2 rebreathing. So Italian doctors were looking to bigger interface for CPAP. And then probably the last drop was someone come across some hyperbaric hoods used already around the world. So they came to StarMed, that was a big company, a small company, but working with some people in the respiratory field since many years. So we're well known in the medical field. So some doctors came to us and say, we need something similar, but with a single-use approach for use in our ICUs. And so we, together with them, we designed the first CPAP hood. And
so yeah, it started with the CPAP hood, connected to the wall gases.
Yes, absolutely. It was connected to air-oxygen blenders and also with Venturi flow drivers. And from there, we started to learn together with the clinician what was the best ways of using it. Initially, it was used with reservoir bags, and then someone said, we don't need it anymore because the volume of the hood itself is a reservoir. Yeah. And then we started to produce clinical literature to discuss the safety, efficacy of CPAP, what was the minimal flow to wash out CO2, and to reply to all the concern about the new interface. So probably from 2002 and 2004, 2005, we already had the main studies to outline the advantages, and the minimum requirements to do a proper helmet CPAP. Then we were quickly requested to extend the benefits of the hood interface, which basically is the comfort for the patient and the ability to start a treatment very early and continue for many hours if needed. Our key opinion leaders asked us, we want the same concept for use on the ventilator for mechanical ventilation, pressure support or BiPAP ventilation. And we hoped to provide the same product, but it was fine, but they were not satisfied completely. So we, again, working with them together with physicians, we then developed a new family of hoods specifically designed for mechanical ventilation. Okay. So we learned step by step that the volume has to be reduced, the compliance of the system has to be reduced, and many other little input led us to design an optimized hood for ventilation. So again, after that, many clinical papers have been published on many different kind of patients using NIV hoods. And again, we basically are a team here at Intersurgical Italy working mainly on this product. Mm-hmm. So our research and development have continued to develop new models and new accessories, new stuff to improve the hood helmet ventilation.
Now, so how many designs do you have? How many types of hoods do you have now in Italy?
Well, at the moment, to optimize, let's say, our offer based on what each customer, each clinical team wants to do, we have hoods for CPAP, hoods for the mechanical ventilator. We have what we call the standard hoods, but we have openable hoods, hoods without a rigid ring, a number of different options. It was quite difficult when we had to choose which one we wanted to present to FDA for this emergency use authorization to choose. And we did choose the NIV hood for a very simple reason that it's a smaller design, but when it's compared, if it has to be used for CPAP, when it's compared to a normal face mask, still has all the benefits of the hood interface compared to masks. So the internal volume provides a very stable CPAP, even if the volume is very smaller. But we wanted, let's say, to anticipate the next step that will probably happen with the US physicians, which is if they want to obtain better performance on the mechanical ventilation. And then they will need a smaller volume or other ways to reduce the compliance. So we decided to start with this.
So this helmet, you have it with you, right? Can you show to us?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And that's our hood, right? For NIV.
Yes.
That's the name of it.
That's the StarMed Intersurgical NIV hood.
Okay.
Yeah, I can show you, we're hoping without confusing anyone, this is a CPAP hood from StarMed, which is basically a bigger volume and with a CPAP feature, which is a manometer in here. And well, probably one day, once say our discussion with FDA will be completed, we will be able to introduce more products and more design for the benefit of the users and the patients, of course.
So this
Yes.
hood, you can use it as a CPAP, and you can connect it to the ventilator too.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So when you use it for CPAP, clearly you connect the flow generator or whatever mean you use to create the constant flow on one side. And on the other side, you just have to put an adjustable, or let's say a PIV valve, like this when you set the pressure.
Yeah.
Of course.
And now we use a filter and a PPAP. Yes, correct.
Yes. Of course, it's strongly recommended to use a filter to prevent contamination of the environment, like this. Now this is a PIV valve which has a female connection, but of course it's always possible to find adapters to fit existing PIV valve on the filters.
Oh yeah, this is all the respiratory therapists. They know how to put those Lego pieces together. So,
yes. There must be some do-it-yourself, otherwise it's no fun.
Yeah, exactly. Now, what is very different with room helmet is the neck seal. It's different comparing to all the other manufacturers in US that are making more other parts of the world, is that you have inflatable pillow. And
yes, we are very proud of the material we use for the neck seal, and we really believe this is one of the big difference between a product and the other. The material is extremely thin plastic film, which is not silicone. And so it's very soft and elastic, but not as elastic as a silicone membrane. And also its biocompatibility is optimal. And it's a better material for this application. As you pointed out, also inside our hood, I don't know if it's easy to see it, there is also an inflatable cuff. That can be inflated through this port using an inflation valve, or some hospitals just use a big syringe. Can be inflated and then clamped off to keep it inflated. So this cushion, well, first of all, can improve the patient comfort in some ways, even if when the helmet is in the right position, it doesn't touch the patient head, but also is reducing again the internal volume. And it has been demonstrated in a quite recent paper that this can stabilize the system so much and reduce the compliance of the system so much that the mechanical performance is then optimized with this. I mentioned the comfort through the cushion. In reality, you can see here another tiny design improvement that we made some years ago on our hoods, which is the rigid ring is not a straight ring, but is shaped to follow the profile of the shoulder, because we realized at some point that when very high pressure are used, if you would have a leak, it will probably be from here. And so we wanted to optimize this by lowering the front part of the hood so that the membrane in here was even more pushed on the torso, making sure that everywhere around the patient torso, the seal was optimized.
Yeah. It's amazing how this little change is genius, can improve the leak. And from what I see, the StarMed hood has no leak in one of the studies, we tried to check the leakage for the helmets, and we compared a few different ones. So StarMed was, 100% compliant.
We can proudly support this because, well, as I said, we designed the first hood in 2004, in 2001. In 2004, we already released the second generation, and then a third, and then this one, and then new models. We have a couple of offices, few heads all day. They just think about how to optimize this product. And well, someone may say that in 15 years that we have made only 2 little improvements, but it's this kind of improvements that make the difference for us.
Yeah.
For example, in the last design that we introduced, luckily very shortly before the COVID, so we had the new design ready for the COVID. We worked very much on the flow diffuser component that is inside here, that in the past was made in a different material with a different shape, so that when the flow comes in from the flow generator or the ventilator, we wanted to make sure that the noise generated by the turbulence through this diffuser was reduced to the minimum, and the airflow was circulating as much as possible. So my colleagues have spent probably a couple of months on the computer to make flow simulation or whatever, and with their softwares to make an optimum redesign. And another important aspect that we wanted to change was this, which are the sealed accesses that can be used just for offering a drinking straw to the patient, but also probably their main use is when the patient has a feeding tube, and so we have to take the tube out for connecting to the feeding pump. So those connectors allow the passage of also very big connectors, like this one I'm using, which is a dual lumen heater. And I can show you on this one, which is disconnected from the hood. Then the tubing, the catheter is fit inside the port, and the special funnel design of this port will ensure an optimal seal for different diameters of the catheter. Again, this.
And you can change the hole, right? The opening of that, you can change it. You can make it bigger in case if you're using a bigger.
Yes. These yellow parts are for use with catheters of a diameter of higher than 12 Charrier. Then in the package we provide also a green one, which is a smaller part for catheters smaller than 10 Charrier. Okay. Because the same hood, let's say the same product is available in 6 sizes, from the extra small to the extra large. And so it may be that an extra small may be for a patient with using a very tiny catheter.
Patients too.
Yeah.
So the sizes are usually, this is the neck opening sizes, or is it also the volume of the hood changes?
What changes in the sizes is just the whole of this membrane.
Okay.
Because of course it's very elastic, it's very soft, but again, to optimize the seal and not to leave any red signs on the skin, we prefer to change these diameters, and we prefer to provide it ready to use, because these kinds of membrane, this is for every hood interface, is very well. There must be a specific technology to make it if you don't want it breaking up during use. Because to pass the patient head, you will have to open this membrane widely, and you don't want from here just start a breakage.
Right. Yeah, also I really like that you have sizes instead of just cutting the ring yourself for the clinicians. It's much easier. It's much faster for the doctors to apply the helmet on a patient. And your video, this is what I saw in the video, how you measured the neck, and then it tells you what size helmet you need to use.
Yeah. Yes. Basically, there is this taper rule in the shipping box. Mm-hmm. There are a few. You can use it for checking what is the patient's size. Mm-hmm. You see, I'm a medium.
Medium, yes.
And selecting the right product before opening the single package. The sizing is very friendly anyway compared to masks, and our experience is that this is used by clinical teams only the first weeks of use, and then it's very easy for the nurses to identify what is the correct size.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, you develop that, sixth sense, and
Yes. Yes.
So now I know that back in March you had a big hit, of COVID patients, and you used all the helmets that you were manufacturing at that time for the hospitals in Italy to fight the pandemic. Can you tell me a little bit more about it? What happened and how you were handling it?
It has been quite a hard time for us, and still I would like to thank everyone in my company that in some ways has been helping. People from the office, people from the export office. We were waking up with New Zealand and going to bed with the US, but mainly the production people. The production operators were fantastic. Just to give you an idea, when in January, the hood was very much a niche product, and we were producing we'll say less than 1,000 per week. And this was sufficient to cover the whole world demand. Mm-hmm. And then in our team, we had export people, product specialists, and training people. And this is another aspect I would like to touch later on. And then there was COVID in Italy. As you said, Italy was hit quickly and badly. So we had to improve our manufacturing by 5 or 6 times in a matter of a couple of weeks, because we really had a call for help from the Italian government, and the hospital were overcrowded of people. Italian clinician already pointed this for being the best product for helping them. And so we no one in the company was thinking of anything else than doing the best to optimize this. And so, as I said, in a couple of weeks, we moved up to an incredible number for us of 1,000 per day.
Wow.
And and still this was absorbed completely by the Italian market, but still this was not sufficient. So we have continued to work to improve this. and we have improved this again. We thought it was impossible, but we did it, and so now the Italian plants can do many more than this. Yeah, we thought it was impossible, but like the tiny design changes, there is always somewhere you can put your effort to improve it more or whatever. Then we even have activated other manufacturing paths to help us, because at some point there was, as you know, there was an export ban from the Italian government for this kind of respiratory product. Mm-hmm. So even if we already had the demands from all around the world for big quantities, we were very frustrated to say we really can't export this out of Italy. But as soon as this export ban was lifted at the very beginning of April, we wanted to help as much as possible many other countries, as we did for Italy. Italy was still requiring quite big quantities, but at least we could start to deliver also to the export. And yeah, ideally the export demand is huge, so we wanted to be prepared for this autumn or winter in case of other waves in other markets. We really want to be able to help everyone. So at the moment we can think of any quantity the world will ask us. During this process, we started the Eus Project. Mm-hmm. There was this emergency use authorization pathway that was opened by the US government, and we decided for the it was not the first time we tried to bring this product to the US. It has been quite frustrating, but in the last 15 years we've tried a few times. So we have started all the process, which was not easy, I have to say, because still American clinicians like this product, love this product, understand the benefit of it, and they were knocking our door many times in the last 15 years. But with FDA, it was something different to what the system already had. And so it was quite challenging, but finally we had this emergency use application, and now we can provide our product to those who like to try.
Yes, and I really hear it more and more from other experts in climate-based ventilation that physicians actually, they are asking for this product for many years. Like you did mention, after the University of Chicago study came out in January 2016, you had a lot of requests for the helmets, but again, the biggest obstacle was the FDA approval, and using a product off label was not so easy. So at this moment, we have some helmet manufacturers in the US, and I'm glad that you also entered the market, because that's gonna give the clinicians more options, so you can choose the helmet that we like. And you received that approval back in August, so it's pretty new. I hope very soon it's going to be distributed here in the US. And now I want to ask you a little bit more about the helmet itself. You did mention you use it first for the CPAP, use it as a CPAP helmet setting, then it was connected to the ventilator and BiPAP. You mentioned the Venturi valve, which again, we're not so familiar here in US with the Venturi valve for the helmet CPAP setup. And I know that Dr. Sarita from Penn University, he's an expert on that setup. Can you tell me a little bit more about the helmet and the Venturi valves?
The Venturi system became useful in the Italian hospital because helmet CPAP, which is used, as you said, here in Italy since more than 18 years, there was the need at some point to extend this therapy out of the ICUs, because the Italian hospital, even very big hospitals, have very few ICU beds. So it was very limiting factor that everyone needing CPAP for any sort of post-operative or cardiogenic or whatever need of CPAP had to keep an ICU bed occupied. So some big Italian users established protocols, training protocols, and ICU outreach teams to make CPAP in some of the general departments, general wards, like hematologic departments or general departments, so that the patient with the helmet was assisted by a non-ICU nurse. And clearly, this was possible only with the helmet interface, because making good CPAP therapy with a CPAP mask can require a lot of nursing work and nursing procedure. So not optimal for non-ICU nurse to take care of this breathing system. So with the hood, once the hood is on the patient, the seal is perfect, and a nurse can cover it, even if there are more patients. The ratio nursing patient is not 1-to-1 like in the ICU. But in Italy, in most of the hospitals, the compressed air is available only in the ICU. Mm-hmm. So if they wanted to do CPAP out of the ICU, they needed Venturi devices. Was the only option, because they just need compressed oxygen. So the Venturi is an equipment, is a device that uses compressed oxygen to drive into the interface, into the CPAP breathing system, environmental air. So this is a good solution for helmet CPAP. It is very important to be careful on the back pressure, so choosing the right Venturi device, because these Venturi valves can be very, very efficient, using a limited amount of compressed oxygen for delivering high flow. But it's always very important to check what happens when in the CPAP system I'm rising up some PEEP level. Mm-hmm. So the Venturi, free from any CPAP system, can deliver, 100 liters per minute, but it's important to check when I place the PEEP valve, the hood and the PEEP valve, or the mask and the PEEP valve, 10 of PEEP, what is then the total flow to the patient. But yeah, let's say Italian hospitals were establishing the best equipments to do that, and they started using this. Otherwise, the ICU may use air oxygen mixers or blenders, which I'm sure quite common also in the US market. And the advantage for the Italian market with COVID was that this kind of approach was already used since many years in some hospitals, but also the hospital that did not do already use of the hood out of the ICU could quickly learn through the clinician networks. And as we know, the hood has been chosen as a gold standard for early COVID treatment, because really in a hospital department, you can have 10, 15 beds, everyone having helmet CPAP, through Venturi systems or other blenders or whatever, simultaneously being looked after by a limited number of nurses. So the idea was using the helmet to do CPAP very early to those patients with the mild symptoms, and with the application of CPAP, keeping oxygen saturation and the respiratory system in the best possible condition to prevent deterioration and then admission to the ICU and ventilation in the ICU. This is the same approach that for which the CPAP hood was used years ago to prevent, for example, hematological patients to be admitted to the ICU. And there was already some interesting and big literature about that. The Italian teams were very ready to extend this to the whole country, to all hospitals for COVID patients.
Wow. And also in an emergency department, probably you did use the hoods a lot?
Absolutely, yes. There are studies very interesting of using the hood in ambulances in Italy. In Italy, in the ambulances, we may have only paramedics who cannot provide drugs to the patient. The doctor travels on medical cars, and those doctors can prescribe drugs. So there are very interesting experiences which are documented on some clinical papers, where the ambulance having the patient with a cardiogenic edema, having helmet CPAP only, with no drugs, with no diuretics, was getting to the hospital in 15 minutes and reaching the hospital with oxygen saturation much better than those patients who got the medical car with the doctor, so getting the diuretics, but not CPAP. And also the patient get to the hospital with the hood in CPAP is switched to the wall oxygen, air and oxygen in the hospital department, and these lead to lower ratio of ICU admission for these cardiogenic edema patients.
So yeah, this is again, the biggest benefit of the helmet, that it's an easy system to apply after you get used to it. We're all gonna go through the learning curve here, but early application for the patients, on the field, in ER, on a regular floor, non-ICU floors, you can definitely, increase the survival rate for these patients and prevent all the complications that may come with the delay of non-invasive ventilation. And this is what the University of Chicago saw for, with some immunosuppressed patients too, like you mentioned before. They are so, so fragile, and any bacteria or virus can be deadly to them. So helmet is another way to prevent that contamination. And again, for COVID, that was a perfect system where you can save your staff, you can slower the spread of the virus because of the filter application, no leak, and you guys had that one extra step in your protocol where other countries didn't. And like in one of the infographics, I did show how Italy is managing their COVID patients versus the US. If you fail nasal cannula, you go intubated in the US, where in Italy you still have one more, chance to get better without the ventilator, which is the helmet. Clearly,
Yeah, clearly, well, Italy has this too, but yeah, also the US, I have to say, I felt it very much online with this because, as we said, in the last 15 years, StarMed Intersurgical has made attempts to enter the US market with this product because there was a big interest from US physicians. Every every international congress, there was interest from US physicians, and the paper from the Chicago University in JAMA opened again worldwide interest about this interface. Their results were very interesting for everyone. So the clinician in the US really feel the benefits of this interface. There was a regulatory complication, limitation, and well, probably at this time I can really say that the vast clinical literature that was written and published in the last 15 years now can be of benefit for the entire world. On the Intersurgical website, you can see a selection of these papers. We have an online blog that we try to update now with the most interesting papers, but I think I have in my files something like 200 clinical papers about the hood, which is something we presented to FDA in our previous attempts, but it's not the way I used to certify products in. So in the US, there were other hoods created for other application, and our hoods had a similar technical design, but because for them the clinical application is the very first question, if you have a different application, you cannot use this kind of hoods as a predicate device. So we were on a different planet than oxygen treatment hoods. And so on the other way, we were considered a complete different product because we were doing CPAP and NIV. So many times we were suggested, why don't you say you are an oxygen treatment hood? We are not. It is a product that is designed to work with pressure in CPAP and on a ventilator. Is another story. We cannot refuse this because it's the basic of our philosophy and technical file.
Exactly. And there will be more studies coming up now with the hood for the COVID patients.
Yes.
You probably already know how many there will be coming with your hood. But do you know when it will be published? When did you hear any of those already being published?
It was funny because at the beginning we were on the phone all day to train and to talk to doctors, and also we got in touch with the key opinion leaders that we know have been publishing about the helmet for many years, and we were asking them, are you going to, or do you need support? Are you going to write something about the helmet at COVID? Sometimes, very often they said, at the moment we don't have time to collect any data because we are working 20 hours per day. But now the situation is calmed down, so we have seen some editorials about suggestion for using the hood for protecting the caregivers and making early CPAP. And I'm sure that that probably early next year we will see big papers with the number of patients on helmet in CPAP and NIV.
Yeah, and also in US, Dr. Serena, he's also probably early next year will be published a study about the helmet-based ventilation for the COVID patients. So I just want to, again, send this message to all the clinicians in the U.S. and all the decision makers in the hospitals that there's so many studies already done. I know that everybody is asking for more studies in the U.S., but you can always go and look back what the Italians did, and they spend so much time, and we have so much experience already with the helmet ventilation in the U.S. Still using it, so that should be a good product, right?
Yes.
And and it's just now in today's world where we are getting used to the new normal. I think the helmet is a great device to prevent the virus or bacteria to spread out and actually be ready for any more pandemics that are so easy to contaminate. The virus that is so easily spread can actually, a helmet ventilation can actually help to stop that spread or at least reduce it.
I'm sure that probably the clinical perception of non-invasive ventilation will change after this pandemic, because I remember visiting the ICU where patients were treated non-invasively. So, I mean, COVID is a big issue, is a big, very challenging virus, but many of the respiratory diseases are spread through aerosol-generating procedures, and I'm not sure that sufficient effort was put in place to protect the other patient or the caregivers. And now, with all this attention, people will find ways to continue protecting the caregivers and the other patients.
Yeah, exactly.
From our perspective, this has always been important because, well, the problem of leakages is minimal when you use the hood to other NIV interfaces. But as I said, we are proud of our membrane for maintaining the seal. Because if you use very high pressures, particularly on a ventilator, the inspiratory pressure can be quite high. So you really need to offer a full seal. Otherwise, if you say to the user, your patient will be isolated in the non-invasive ventilation interface, but then if the pressure increases above 10 centimeters of water for any reason, then there will be a leakage, then they are not protected, let's say. So it's important to make sure that every feature is really maintained for the whole application of uses. I wanted to add another thing about the future clinical study, and I'm very excited about that because I think this will help very much in understanding and creating the culture, well, expanding the culture about helmet-based ventilation. Because we have to say that so far the training of new users in markets different than Italy, or because this was a niche product, the training of the users was just left in the capable, I would say, hands of the manufacturers, which must have a network, an international network of product manager, product specialist, trainees, people that will teach to the users how this interface has to be correctly used in a safe way for the patient and in a safe way for the caregivers. We have experienced already many years ago, before all of this, some similar products were appearing in the market, but just left with the customers. And this was not really good, because then when we were reaching those customers, these hospitals for the first time, they didn't want to see us anymore because the helmet was, they were not happy of the first attempt. and we had to retrain them, reassure them about the interface. So it's not just providing a product, it's providing the product and how to use it and the culture about it.
Absolutely, I agree with you, because this is what I'm seeing in US. Some of the physicians, they get frustrated, and it's understandable because we are also overworked. That's during the peak back in March, when we working long hours and we trying a new device. So we were frustrated because something didn't work well, and it's not always a good time to learn the new system, but I know that some of the physicians, they took their time, they learned, they read the protocols, they try it on the volunteers, they created a good, champions for the helmet in their hospitals who knew the system and who were available during 24/7. So then patients, don't fail because of technical issues, not because of the patient's condition. And so I hear different stories. And like you mentioned, again, it's very important to take your time and learn the system, try it. Don't get frustrated in the first try. It's normal to fail at the beginning, but to make sure you choose the correct patient if you're trying for the first time too. Or the correct volunteer. So make sure that you're learning the system, and then when you feel really comfortable with this, start using more and more, and at the same time teach your staff. Because as you mentioned many times, nursing is very important for this for the NIV treatment with the helmet, because there are all the nursing care that is given to the patient who's in the helmet is the skin care, all the underarm straps, moving it around so it's comfortable for the patient, also giving all the oral fluids, medication, suctioning, all of it is nursing care. And if you don't feel comfortable with the helmet, you may see some delays or some issues with the NIV, with the helmet.
Yeah, you have experienced yourself that. But anyway, generally the learning curve is very fast for this kind of interface, because it's almost self-sealing, and this is taking away a very big slice of the nursing care on a patient in NIV ventilation. But there are many other little aspects. So when physicians will try the hood for the first time, if any issue, contact back the supplier, and we will be able to provide correct information, quick support to make sure that all the efforts we make for manufacturing and the efforts of the clinical teams are well used to help the patient.
Questions, sorry for interrupting, from that I get it a lot through the website. So about the humidifiers, do you guys connect the helmet to the humidifier, and if yes, when?
Well, it's always possible to connect a humidifier to actively humidify the gas that go to the helmet. Mm-hmm. Technically, it's possible. Clearly, is quite a complication on the breathing system. So our suggestion is to use this when the patient condition really require it. We have to consider that the active humidifier will attempt to warm up the gas flow to 37 degrees at almost 100% humidity. So if this will be the case in the hood, it will be very discomfortable. Too much hot, too much humid for the patient. So this way we will make the most comfortable interface very, very discomfortable for the patient. So this is not what we want. So we suggest if we feel that for physiologic reason the patient needs humidity, just using a very low temperature setting of the flow driver, or switching on, switching off from time to time to prevent the temperature to increase too much. We have to consider that during CPAP, normal CPAP treatment, the temperature in the hood is around 24, 25 degrees. The patient head and neck are in the system. The patient is expirating in the system, which is washed out, but some of the humidity from the patient remains in the hood. So it's not completely a dry gas.
Okay.
Unless you use dry oxygen and dry air, and then you may.
Yeah, this is when you connect all the airflow from the wall,
Yes, yes.
and if you don't have any ambient air in there, that can become an issue. And then and then when it's in a ventilator or BiPAP, it's also because it's not you guys don't have issue with the humidification.
No, we have. If I'm thinking of the biggest users, only one or two in my experience, they are using on all patient active humidification. But they do that because luckily they have very old humidifiers, very old, not performant, so they keep it on, and those are not able to perform to what they should do. So they warm up a little bit the fluid, but not as much as a modern humidifier will do. The most of our big users, they use a lot these ports to offer a drinking straw to the patient, or you can use these patient as a sport for letting the patient drink, and you just stop the therapy for a few seconds.
Okay.
If you say this to a mask user, offer to drink to the patient, he will say, "Oh my God," because then he has to reposition the mask again.
Yeah.
But in a hood with a patient port is just a few second interruption.
Quick access, exactly. And and most of these patients, they don't even want to take a break. Again, that's a great benefit that I can hear from helmet users, that patients feel so comfortable with the helmet. Where with the face mask, you have to give them a break from all that pressure on the face, so they don't want to take any breaks.
Yes, we have a joke. Nurses have a joke here in Italy. They say when the patients start complaining about comfort in the hood, is because it's already feeling very much better.
That means time to take the hood off.
The pathology is almost overcome because, well, we don't know because we are healthy, but they need the pressure, they need the oxygen. So for them, being in the pressurized environment is really something good for them.
Yeah. And this is again the question I have about nebulizers. How are you using nebulizers with patients?
So we have a special accessory to connect basically a nebulizer to this port.
Okay.
And inside there is a mouthpiece that the patient can take in his lips, and on the outside you connect a nebulizer.
Okay.
This is one of those few things that we have available globally, but not yet in the US, and we will continue to work with the FDA to allow us to bring more accessories and more stuff to the US market, because it's interesting. This device allows you during CPAP treatment to provide drugs to the patient. So
again, you
very,
don't have to take it off, you know, like with the face mask. Face mask.
yes, well, I've seen many naive things in my experience, but clearly connecting a nebulizer with a T-piece in here or somewhere else will just provide the drag to the helmet interface, but inside you have a turbulence that will stick everything to the ears, if not right in the eyes. So then it depends if the drug may irritate the patient or not. So to make it properly, there is no other way than reaching the patient mouth with the mouthpiece from the outside.
Yeah, that's a very good feedback and a very good suggestion. Another question I have, so are your helmet single patient use?
Yes. Yes, it's a single patient device because it's physically impossible to clean the internal parts of the hood from any biological residue.
Mm-hmm.
And we know that sterilizing a medical product is effective only if every biological residual is removed prior to gas sterilization or whatever. So using the hood on a different patient is really, really dangerous.
Yeah. And that's what happened during the COVID too. That's why your production went all the way up to 1,000 per day of helmets because it's a single patient use.
Yes, yes. Well, we know that in the past, in some markets have been reuse of the product, and well, it's a clinical decision that is, in my opinion, very, very bad. I mean, no one would ever use a medical product that is made for blood use, blood contact with another patient because you see it dirty. Okay, you maybe don't see a helmet interface dirty because it's very often transparent secretions, but they are there, and it's not.
That makes
it's not something.
That's a good makes sense. I'm looking at my list. What else I wanted to ask you? You gave us so much information. Now, so you know you probably now providing helmets to the rest of the world, and because of the pandemic, a lot of other countries, not just US, but other countries that never saw a helmet device are asking for the helmet to be shipped to them. Can you tell me a little bit more about that? Helmet making a history in the rest of the world right now, and what do you hear and what do you see? What is the biggest obstacle, and how can we figure
the situation and the management of the COVID pandemic in Italy, which was one of the first country hit after China, those images have been seen all around the world. So we have had big requests from many markets like the US. The limitation has always been, well, originally our impossibility to export. And as I said, this was from the human perspective, it was the worst thing for our team because but we were proud to serve our country, but at the same time we would have loved to help other countries. The regulatory aspects are always another limitation because in some countries there has been fast regulatory pathways to enter with new devices, in some others not. And as I said, the helmet was a niche interface which only a few months ago myself and my colleagues were trying to bring to other markets, but it was not seen as such an important, such an useful product.
Mm-hmm.
So with COVID, everything changed, and from both sides, manufacturers and also regulatory bodies in the countries, there must be a different approach.
And so, what other countries are you you're providing the helmets to? What other countries in the world that you're shipping? I know now that the southern,
Yeah, there are some requests from Europe, also from Latin America or somewhere else in the Middle East. There was a particular situation where in March, April,
mm-hmm.
if we had the manufacturing capacity that we had today, and we would have been shipping tens of thousands everywhere per week.
In the world.
At the time being, many of the orders or the big contracts that we were supplying, we were contacted by national authorities to sign off for tens of thousands delivery month to month, and we were adjusting our manufacturing capacity to cover all of this.
Mm-hmm.
Then, as soon as the pandemic went better in some of these countries, the contracts with us were cancelled.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So at the moment, we are not supplying those anywhere anymore, and we will supply other markets. At the moment, I can say that the US market is one of our main concerns and one of our main focus. We would really say for the next few months, or depending how the pandemic will evolve in your market, to be one of our main focus.
And now, especially when we are in the fall now, and the flu season is going to be starting soon with the COVID. People have different guessings what's going to happen, but again, it doesn't matter if your patient has a COVID and ARDS. Still, non-invasive ventilation is so beneficial for other diseases too, other pathogens too. So, even somebody who comes with the flu and have complications and needs non-invasive ventilation. This is again where you can put the helmet to keep it running for a longer time, and also protect your staff and don't spread the virus in the environment. Another issue that
I can honestly tell you, from a business perspective,
mm-hmm.
for a company like us, as we have seen the evolving of panicking ordering in the global market, at some point it may have been questionable to say, do we really want to set for such a big manufacturing output? Because it means making huge investments.
Mm-hmm.
But we really felt like many, probably like the other helmets manufacturer, an ethical importance on our work. So we want to be prepared if there is another wave. We don't want to be in the same position that we were in March, helping only one market, but trying to help more markets in the world. So even if from a return of investment or whatever things that the companies have to consider, at some point someone said, are we sure? Someone of us said, we are sure we have to do it, and we will review next year. Next spring, we will see if we did it right or wrong.
Yeah.
So this is.
Yeah, it's definitely, it's a very humanitarian step that you made by making this decision, to keep that manufacturing capacity so high to help not just your country, but the others too when it's needed.
Yeah. We considered being those in the best position for making this step, so for being able to help more, and we wanted to do our part in this. And,
Now, another question, now during the pandemic, we have so many more and new and exciting innovations in the medical field. Are you guys seeing that happening with the helmet systems? Because some underdeveloped countries have a huge problem with the oxygen supply, and not just the underdeveloped countries, also countries who, have enough ventilators, but in the rural areas, you will not have that those resources that you can have in the main hospital. How can you, meet that flow requirement and that oxygen, demand for these patients? Are there any innovations, any accessories that can resolve this issue that you heard or that you're working on?
Well, it's tricky because I think for this we will need more months to see new innovation, because the world is full of good business people. When they see a good potential new product or new therapy, they likely jump into this to have a quick business on the markets or to help or whatever. But it's difficult to make innovation in these conditions. So it's much easier to take what is in the market already available and to make very minor modification to based on what will bring you to the market earlier. So easier technology to manufacture or easy to get to the regulatory approval. Is very unlikely in this situation to see the innovation. Okay, we have been talking with our R&D guys because they also themselves, they were working in the manufacturing area overnight during the first weeks. Those people like me that could not travel anymore for training or meetings were manufacturing hoods as well in the night shift. At some point we said we are probably, we have to start thinking of the next generation product, and oxygen consumption was one of these concerns. But it's not that easy. We have some ideas going on, but we are in a very, very early stages. So it's difficult to say if something good will come out of this and when. But I'm sure that after this period of we need to bring to the market, there will be maybe also from other entities, good ideas with innovation.
Yeah, well, what I'm hearing now, what I'm seeing, and I get connected with so many teams around the world who are also working on the same issue, how to save that oxygen and how to make sure that you're using it less and providing the appropriate treatment for the patient. So I can assure you there are a lot of other great minds out there who are working on it, And I hope soon we will see, the next generation for the helmet setup for the helmet in the case. And so my last question, I know it's late already in Italy. I wanna.
No problem.
I wanna know what is your opinion. What do you see? How do you see the future of helmet in the U.S. market, in U.S. hospitals? In next 5-10 years, what do you think is going to happen?
Well, I am positive about that. I hope our efforts to reach the American hospital now didn't come too late, so that there will be a possibility to build up clinical base on the American clinician, and many patients are helped and treated. And this will help to make the next steps of equalizing with FDA how our helmets should be to be safe, how our helmets should be for being used on a ventilator, because it's not the same than used for CPAP. So, well, the FDA in the US needs clinical feedback and clinical replies that a company alone may struggle to provide quickly. But if many patients will be used, many patients will be treated with the hood in the next few months, then probably the US market will become similar to the Italian market, I think.
I hope so too. And again, it's not just the clinicians who will see the benefit of it, and it's also the hospital administration. They will see the reduction in expenses, and also in the US, it's very important the readmission rate for these patients. Also the long-term effect of the treatment. So we know that a lot of intubated patients have issues after discharge, and they cannot go back to their normal lives. So it takes a longer time to recover. Again, I don't want to say that the helmet is replacing the intubation, the mechanical ventilation, but it can help to reduce that number of intubated patients. And so again, let's be honest here, we're not talking just about the great results for the patient and how it can reduce the complications and the mortality rates for them. But also when we talk about the money, here is you saving a lot in the health system, and also you saving those ventilators for people who really, really need them. So again, I'm a big champion of the helmet ventilation here in the US and now in the world. I feel like, I truly believe that helmets will stay in the US, and everybody who is, everybody will see the benefit of it. And I'm already
certainly having a choice is always better than not having it. And but for many years, our promotion has been also focused on these economical aspects, because when NIV fails, mask NIV fails, and the patient will then be intubated, the cost of the longer ICU stay, the cost of intubation, or everything that comes from intubation is huge compared to the extra cost of a hood compared to a face mask, because the helmet will always cost more than a mask. The technology we use today, most of the job is handmade by operator one by one. Each one needs to be tested. For this reason, if we think of our manufacturing improvements, compared to the number of filter or tubings that are required in the market is ridiculous. If I say I can do 100,000 units in a day, but for a helmet product is unbelievable. So there was also a study related to the Chicago study covering some of the economical benefits of this, and I loved it. At that time I felt yeah, people will see this and think it's too much, but now with a pandemic, facing a pandemic, those data are probably not that optimistic. So, I mean, this is another aspect where there should be some changes in the future, because the doctors and the nurses use the product on the patient, but sometimes they are not the same. They're not the decision maker. The decision is made by someone in the accounts, hospital accounts or whatever, which are people that don't see the patient or they don't do any nursing on the patient. So there must be a balance in the decision, who gets more weight on the decision.
Exactly, and actually I have a very good infographic on my website where all of it is summarized and very visual. So please feel free to share that with any hospital administrators, because we will see all the comparison, face mask, helmet, interface, and ventilators. So all the numbers, and we probably will look at the last part of it where it says how much money you can save if you use helmet versus face mask. So again, this is great, and I'm so lucky that I was at the University of Chicago during the study, and that I was able to do my capstone presentation with the patient on a helmet who survived ERDS, and she was immunosuppressed. So it's a great time for the helmet in US, and I'm hoping that we will be ready for the next wave. And again, congratulations on your FDA approval. So now we have 2 helmets that are FDA EUA approved. It's the StarMed R-Foot NIV helmet, and then also Subcell helmet that is made in Rhode Island. Well, thank you so much, Marco, and good luck to you and your team and your family. Stay safe, and I have a feeling we're going to talk again very soon, and we will share our experience. Thank you.
Thank you very much to you. It's been a great pleasure, and I hope to see you soon.
Thank you.
Well, there is another thing that is very important. If I didn't say in the interview, maybe you can say it in the review. When this is not in use, so if I want to close it back without the feeding tube or the catheter, if you make like this and then like this, is okay, but it's not the best way, because the internal pressure may release the cap.
Okay.
The best way to do it, and there is a small leaflet in every package to remind this, the best way to use it is first to put the small cap into the larger collar, and then to fit all together into the seal.
Okay, that's very important. Yeah.
This way it will not pop out. Okay.